Hi there. I'm just coming on. I'm not going to be doing a reading this evening. I am far too drained for that. What I would like to do is share a little bit about the clair-senses and explain clairtangency in particular, because I was updating my website yesterday and I was putting in some direct links to help people who are not familiar have access to read a little bit more about the psychic clair-senses, of which there are 8. And out of those 8, I naturally possess 7. And I have for a long time, my whole life. These are natural gifts, and sometimes they get shut down within us and we bring them back online. And I believe that I'm a lucky person who has kept them intact for most of my life. There's been periods of time, periods of depression or healing or upset, where I wasn't as in touch with those senses. Those periods also, correspond with periods of addiction or substance use, and then also being prescribed on medications, which severed that connection for me. So, clairtangency, yes, it's interesting because it's not one of the ones you hear about as much. Some people think that the term clairvoyant and the term psychic, that those are synonymous, and they're not. To be psychic means very different things for very different people. Clairtangency is the touch. You receive information by feeling things. Now, claircognizant, clairsentient is claircognizant. Well, now see, I'm getting myself confused. There are subtle differences between these, but when you're claircognizant, it's clear knowing, and you are provided with fully formed thoughts and ideas or accurate knowledge that you did not previously have any knowledge of, because it's like a psychic download that comes into your mind. I believe clairsentience is more about inferring things. There's a subtle difference between those two. But when we talk about clairtangency, it's physical touch. And I want to talk about this one in particular because it's my belief that people will start to experience a little bit more of their psychic senses. Everybody has different ones. I believe that at the very basic level, all humans are capable of strengthening their intuition. And then beyond that, everybody will have different experiences that can either be honed. You can create space for certain natural predispositions and then hone those gifts. I was talking to somebody recently who was telling me about their experience with channeling archangels, saying that they would write and get messages, but it was never like truly shocking to them. Nothing like massive would come through. And I was saying, like, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to build that connection and allow for yourself to not judge that process. And the only way to have those gifts expand is to keep utilizing them, to keep trusting them, and also to show your spirit guides and the beings that are like helping you if you should choose to call upon them. Although I believe that, we all have guardian angels and a spirit team with free will. They're not able to assist you as they would be unless you ask for them to and give them permission, even in the most open-ended of ways. Just be clear to make sure that you're only inviting in beings that are of the light and on your team, and only partaking in your energy or your life for the highest good of all beings concerned, including yourself. So because the energy of the earth is changing, and we're seeing different kinds of solar activity. I mean, really, it's like kind of our whole solar system. There's a lot going on. I really wish that the news was filled with more stuff like big solar flare, Schumann resonance is at this today. That's not the kind of stuff that we are informed about on a regular basis, but it does impact micro, macro, the human energy field. And so a lot of people are naturally being triggered into experiencing certain things. And another good example of this is that I have had a few people reach out talking about certain kinds of dreams that are not like normal dreams. That's the tip of the iceberg. If you know, and you've had if you've, whatever, lucid dreaming, astral projection, sort of like not astral projection, but those 4D states. I've talked about this in the past. I talked about it in my microdosing vlog that I posted a little while back around like waking up in your astral body and being conscious, like you're lucid in a dream, but you actually don't even know you're dreaming because you're in your astral body and you're literally in the same space that you are in. Like I'll wake up and be able to see my body in the bed, but sometimes I don't know that I'm still actually sleeping. So a lot of these things without context can sometimes feel like we don't know what to do with them. So clairtangency in particular, when energy is moving in the body, when a human's energetic system is recalibrating, the energy, it changes, but then we adjust. And that's why people talk about ascension symptoms, aches, pains, headaches, disclaimer, with anything, consult a medical professional. That is not me, right? But it's no mystery that there is a very real physical impact and on our bodies that is related to the energy. And it's my belief that trying to diagnose, treat, or medicate these types of things is not necessarily going to help. And I only say that not because I'm advising anybody else, but because I have years of experience in knowing that every solution that was offered to me to fix me made my situation worse, and I was able to go off medication under the secret supervision of my psychiatrist, because he trusted me and he said, okay, Mariah, we're going to do your experiment. We don't have to tell anybody. We'll see how it goes. And then it was a year and a half later that I could stand firmly on my 2 feet and kind of confess to everybody who was involved in my care at that time that I had done it and that I didn't need them. And I had to be able to prove that for me, in my opinion, I had to be able to show people that I didn't need it. And in order to show people that I didn't need it, I wanted, and well, that's when I began to develop my holistic healing practice. That's when I got a lot more involved with a psychic healer who has had a profound impact on me. She's a gifted medical intuitive in the Pittsburgh area named Emily Pompey. You can Google her and make a session with her if you want. She does remote work. So the subtle changes, though, they can create sensations, right? In the extreme version, it's like pains and aches, but in the moment, right? Or I've talked about this as well, as far as telepathy goes. Like if you're talking to somebody and you get, oh yeah. Clairsentience is the gut nudges. It's the gut feelings. I mean, honestly, it's sort of like the DSM where a lot of these things have similar, especially if you have multiple clairsenses. A lot of things come through very simultaneously. I know mine certainly do. Sometimes I'll be hearing a message clairaudiently and there's a vision coming in trying to like conflict with it. And if you are a channel, if you do connect with spirit guides, you know that it's kind of interesting because like they have senses of humor. They'll talk over each other. You're just the one who is the physical one who gets to choose what to say and how to say it. And that can be a hard thing to do, and it can be overwhelming, especially in this world where a lot of people with psychic gifts are judged or stigmatized, or, the power of this work is not necessarily seen as incredibly valid. However, I think that's going to be changing once people, hopefully, I don't want to put it like this, but I believe that, if somebody gets desperate enough and they're willing to try something, it's like the power of belief and just the efficacy of medical intuitive healing. If you really get into what that does and how starkly it poses a contrast to what we're used to as far as treating the human body, how invasive that is. I've been in and out of the hospital a lot recently, and that's not a place I tend to spend time. So it's just very interesting. I mean, I'm like a sponge. I observe everything. I've been fascinated by just like looking at the all the stuff that is part of the way we treat our bodies medically. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but it's definitely lacking in the full understanding of the human aura, the human energy field, and how we actually sustain conditions within the body energetically or alleviate them. So back to those subtle senses though, right? I didn't used to understand that I had clairtangency as a psychic sense, but I do. And it was that healer who I worked with who I had told her about these taps, okay? And what these feel like to me, it's like a muscle spasm or a twitch. Everybody knows what that feels like. Or like sometimes you look down at like your foot and like your middle toe is like just kind of like twitching a little bit. At least that happens to me a lot. My toe twitches. That's not clairtangency. That's just a toe spasm. Maybe I have a pinched nerve. Who knows? But it's the feeling of a twitch. However, when it happens in such a way, clear it. I'm getting a weird. Yeah. All right. Just to interrupt myself real quick. I've been putting things on the internet lately, and it's really insane to me how much I can feel the interactions energetically of people with my stuff. And I just got a really weird, I don't want to talk about it. Don't affirm it. Doesn't matter. Hold the light, hold the love. Oh, the internet's insane. All right, so yeah, I didn't used to understand that they were messages, but when she was kind of walking me through it, exposing me to the idea of that, I was like, well, yes, in fact, they are in the same place at the same time. So basically I have a couple places in particular where I will get certain twitches, and these are not, it's not like the muscle won't calm down and it's spasming. It's like doot doot, like somebody's tapping me on the shoulder. And then I have another one, I get them in, it's also, think about the axis, has to do with the left side, which is known as being the feminine side of the body, and then the right side. So it depends which side they come on. And I also, excuse me, have asked over time to be made aware of what tap pertains to what guide, so that I may connect that type of message and guidance to the appropriate party and just make sense of it. And once I started giving space for the fact that that was part of something, you know, if I were to be sitting quiet in a room with a bunch of people, having maybe like a private debate in my own mind, can't really resolve my inner qualms. Maybe I'm about to like speak up in a meeting, but I don't want to disrupt everybody if it's not going to be beneficial. I can ask my spirit guides telepathically if it's the right thing to do, and they'll give me yes or no. And it can be, I mean, say I were to act on one of those impulses and have it not go to plan in a way that I don't, you know, I'm like, oh, well, why did I do it? Trust me when I say that there's always a reason. There's always a reason. It may not be made clear immediately, but once you do create the connection and you know that you are receiving guidance and you don't second guess it when it comes in, because when you do that, that's when you open the door for your own doubt and your ego mind, and everything that we've been taught and conditioned to understand about, you know, ourselves. And people don't want to like start to subscribe to something if it's bogus and bullshit, right? That's why a lot of people are they just kind of skirt the outsides of spirituality and pick and choose certain things, but don't want to fully get into it. And that's fine. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's called to be like deeply immersed in this, and maybe that's because they don't relate to any of the experiences. But these sensations can also happen like internally, and that gets back to clairsentience a little bit, and the telepathy thing, where if I'm talking to somebody and they were to say something and I immediately get a sensation in a certain part of my body, one of my energy centers, I can interpret that sensation, and it helps me understand the root emotion that might be existing underneath what they're saying. And I used this example weeks ago, but like if somebody were to say to me like, sounds great, Sounds great, we'll put it on the calendar. But when they say sounds great, I feel a weird sensation in my solar plexus, and it wasn't there before, and I'm familiar with my energy and I clear my energy, so that's coming from outside of me, then I know that there's something going on in that energetic system where there's like a kerfluffle in the energy center of like sense of self, right? And like willpower and confidence, and maybe this person isn't, and so I'd be like, are you sure that day works? And if they reaffirm yes, 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 we have to understand that sometimes these feelings that we get psychically, empathically, or through any of the clair-senses, they might be energy, they might be the energy that, they're, in a lot of cases, those things are not even conscious to the person that you're dealing with. And I said this in the other video as well, but that's why it's important. Like consent is a very important thing as a psychic. You can't just go around, nor would you want to. It's incredibly, a person who's very sensitive, you can be incredibly you can get sick if you just take on everybody's energy. I mean, I would never do, my energetic practices, my cards, any of this. If I was under the influence of alcohol, I'm not able to, like if you're in a crowded room, well, I don't want to go on all these tangents, but thinking about people who say like, oh, you're psychic, well then what's my this? And it's like, that's not how it works. It affects the person who has it, right? And people who have different abilities that go beyond the 5 senses, which we all do, but we may not choose to activate them. It's more to manage, right? Like what if you had 6 extra eyes? You'd need more sunglasses. You'd need more sunglasses. It's not like, so why can't you see out of all of them at the same time? It's like, well, it's still my body. It's still my system. We still have to care for ourselves. And so the point around that is that while your increasing sensations are to be like honored, start creating a dialogue. If this information resonates with you so far and you're starting to experience like little twitches or spasms, like more than usual, like especially if you found this video and you've never watched one of mine before, and if you followed me for the dog content, I'm very sorry to disappoint. You can go. It's not about the dog. He's always going to be in the shorts. He's my sidekick. He's my boy. But I'm a psychic intuitive, and I try to transmit messages about collective energies. I tell a lot of personal stories about my journey to make examples out of things, but also comment on kind of the circusy strangeness happening on the world stage, and symbolism and language, and mindfulness tools for healing as I've come to understand what works for me. If you are becoming more aware of things like that, you can continue to validate them and understand those things and kind of what's going on. But it's not like it won't make sense, right, to everybody. I think it took me a long time to realize that just because I'm aware of something, and then, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting myself. Let me clean this up here. So I guess there was a point in my life where I didn't know that the information I was picking up on, I was receiving psychically. And because of that, I was offering information or insight that, like kind of hit a nerve. Like I've made a lot of mistakes like that because I didn't understand what it felt like to receive different information. I kind of thought it was all just one big party happening inside my head. And sure, I mean, it is. It's the processing center of the human body. This is where it takes place for us. But as I evolve spiritually, I mean, it's more than that. So that's the message for today. I'm just going to wrap this up. It's just about clairtangency. And as always, I haven't said this in a very long time, which is sad. I should get back to saying this, but please email me. I am just having fun and trying to put some information out there, and share about myself. I'm building just a whole heck of a lot of projects in the background. I always have been. I always will be. And this is one of them that is, currently like public, but I really do like to field questions, but also hear about your experiences. I mean, there are people out there who are far more advanced than I, who I have a lot to learn from. So hopefully some of those people end up here eventually too. And I just like to hear about people's strange experiences and stuff. And of course, if you need any type of like support or, have any disagreements about the stuff I say, please do reach out so we can talk about it. I would far prefer that to confusion existing, but it's inevitable. So anyway, drink lots of water, take care of yourselves, and I hope that was informative. I'm going to put the link to the page on the website that I just added that explains what channeling is so that you can read about it if you'd like to. And I'll put the link to the description of the clair-senses as well so that you can read about it. I do believe that we're going to find kind of like increasing into the future. There's a lot of people who are just beginning to wake up to their gifting and their psychic potentiality, and it's going to be a lot of people, I think, that like start to come to like, even if they don't want to, right? Their body, their energy, it's changing. These experiences will start to happen. The last thing that I will share, it's a little upsetting, but I also am a person who has prophetic dreams. It's happened more times than I can count. I mean, to some extent we all do. If we really understood what the dream space is, we all do, But I remember mine. I'm not the only one. Lots of people have this. And the thing about it is that I don't know. Sometimes I have a feeling around it. Sometimes I have a strong feeling around it. And I'm like, that's a vision. But other times I have no idea. And then later it comes to pass. And it's not just like a deja vu where I have a real life experience and then I remember that it's a dream. It's like I remember the dream and then that happens. And I want to talk about this because just like the open airwaves, the dream space is capable of being polluted. And to that effect, I think a lot of people, there's just a lot of weird, like probably a year and a half ago, I was having just tons of super apocalyptic dreams, like doomsday, end of the world stuff. And I don't watch content about that. I don't particularly enjoy being in a, Cloverfield survival, whatever those movies are like, that type of stuff. But it sort of felt just like this collective frequency that was out there, like instilling fear into the dreams. Because I was like, this is not my stuff. Like, why am I viewing all this? But to that point, if you do wake up with troubling dreams like that and they're like so grand and so beyond you, I would say that that's your processing. Even if you don't make sense of it, you can kind of release it and know that heightened emotional state, be it fear, like I'll tell you, the most afraid I've ever been in my life, even with I've been through some scary and bad things in my life, but the most fear I've ever felt is in a dream. My dreams have been more horrifying than things in my real life. And that's interesting. So if you wake up with just like absolutely drenched emotional states within you, you can release that, right? That's you have to feel it to heal it, right? There's something that was getting churned out. And I just know from people asking me somewhat recently, like, what does it mean? What do I have to do? If it doesn't mean anything to you and you're not feeling like it's the time to do anything, then don't do that. But of course, you could always book a session with me and we can go into it, and I'll create a dream map analysis for you. Dream map analysis, yes. With all the symbols and stuff. And my, I think I've said this, but not for a while, the psychiatrist that I saw for 5 years during, some of the hardest times in my life, he was a Jungian Student of Carl Jung, incredibly smart man, and he taught me a lot, and so I learned a lot about that and have become, in the last 10 years, just a super avid dream interpreter. But if you're not interested in working out the symbolism with me or just on your own with what the internet can provide you and with what your own intuition can provide you, then you can let those things go. But back to the, and trust that it's okay, right? Because those emotions have a tendency to bleed into the waking life, just like a girlfriend would be like, you cheated on me in the dream. She's really mad at him. So, I don't know, this was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I had a dream that I was at the funeral of a kid that I went to high school with. He was a friend, but we weren't very close. You know, he dated one of my friends at one point, and not somebody that I think about often, not somebody I had communicated with in years. I had a dream I was at his funeral, and the following week I learned that he had gotten into a skiing accident and he did not make it. And rest in peace. I was disturbed by that. I had already been exposed to the fact that sometimes I have prophetic dreams, but I had never had one that felt so heavy with so much attached to it. And I was sort of a mess. I didn't like that. And I brought that situation to my healer. And she was helping me understand that this is the way of being a seer and that you're not responsible. When you do not know what could be premonition and what is just floating through, you know, it's just the same thing as like being in a crowded room and like being able to read everybody's energy and help everybody. That's not possible. It would annihilate you. And it can be really hard to be really sensitive and see a lot of things. For a lot of reasons, it can be really hard. And it's a hard time to do it right now. But if you're like me, you literally have no other option. And nor would you want to, because this is all about creating a new way of being for humans that involves more authenticity and connection and being able to reconnect what we have gotten so far away from as a people with, you know, just think about like old shamanic practices and health and living with the land and all of that. Very past lifey for many. So it comes very naturally for many who are in these circles and these communities. But I just wanted to put that out there because it wreaked havoc on my conscience for a little bit. And I felt like I had done something wrong. I felt like I could have helped. I felt like I could have saved him, I guess. And a person who would try to, like, that's when we get into the, like, you can't play God, right? We are people who are in this thing. And as we expand and we start to experience things that are a little bit outside the normal scope of human awareness, it can be really overwhelming. And sometimes it can be scary. And yeah, that's why people like me went through my awakening early and young, and many other people have been in it for a long time, and many people have been in it for a short time, but they're older than me and they're good at communicating to the collective. And I am just so thrilled with what I've created so far, but I have a very long road ahead of me. I get visions. I get premonitions about like 7 years into the future, 12 years into the future. It's absolutely insane how much is coming for all of us in really positive ways, but in really transformative ways. So anyway, there's plenty of people who are like holding the light and helping people. God, I hate when I do this. I know I said at like 20 minutes, I was like, okay, bye. If this is your first video, I do this all the time. It's one of the things that I'm still working on. So now I really will go, but hopefully I didn't leave any of my open thought loops unfinished. I am sending good energy out there to all. Peace and blessings.